Hello everyone, Hurricane H here in a different look and a different spin of things. So today we are officially introducing the segment and the programming of the world of martial arts to the fitness, folks that are watching us in general, following our program with Sam the Fit and the Fab. Typically we do all the kickboxing stuff there, fitness kickboxing, hit training, all the stuff. Today it's a little different. Now obviously for those of you who probably haven't seen me before, maybe seen me in one of those shows with her as a second guy on the set, just helping her doing some things, as a partner or family drill. Today I'm going to be introducing the world of martial arts from my perspective and from the perspective of the Fit and Fab channel. The story behind it. First of all, the Fit and Fab is ultimately starting with the fitness piece and what we stated earlier, but we're also a martial arts background. And let me state what that means. I have been actually in the martial arts arena since I was 9 years old. That's a long time ago. And, I've always been a fan of all the arts. And anything that has to do with self-defense, fitness, you name it, I've been in it, I love it. And I still, I'm engaged in it in my own personal life. The Fit and Fab concept is a historic concept that is not recent for us as a family. We've launched this last year at the onset of COVID because my wife, Sam the Fit and Fab, who has been actually the one in charge of some sort of a studio that did all the fitness, hit training, and so on and so forth. And that's her pad, that's her, piece that she loves and she really, really enjoys the most. Similarly, I have always enjoyed martial arts. And I've been on the back scene with her as the producer and doing other things with her for this particular, platform. Now, this is strictly for the Fit and Fab channel, which is an offshoot of the Fit and Fab brand, which is our fitness, regular classes, virtual, dancing, beat, all that stuff, kickboxing, hit training, you name it. Now, we're going to be basically on the channel now producing these sessions or these segments of these programs, inviting different classes, different guests from different styles of martial arts, and so on and so forth. This is going to be a dedicated segment just for all the martial arts and anything related to martial arts. Now, you might be wondering about the look I had in the beginning of the show. Well, let me tell you about it. So what I have been doing in most of the last few years is, I've been involved in the art of Shinobiru or ninjutsu, as it sounds. It's a little funny because a lot of people think ninjutsu movies, ninjas, and all this stuff, but there is an art to it, and that's where I've been more, in the last few years, and that's where I have been engaged, and I love that stuff. Now, but I'm gonna get you back a little bit a historic about the experience and the personal, attachment that I have with the martial arts, and we'll define it, in a very simple way. Ultimately, from this platform, I want to salute and greet all the professors, all senseis, shihans, and everyone that is in the world of martial arts from the studio. And this is a dedication to everyone. My dream, since I was a kid, is to have a dojo and also to have an opportunity to present martial arts, to folks and train people, which I've done already at a different capacity, at different arts. This is a dream come true, literally. So we've started with the concept of the fitness because that's my wife's, background. Now we're gonna add to it this particular component. So the El Almighty Media Broadcasting Corp has multiple now channels. One of them is being the health channel. One of them is being the actual beauty, channel. And now this is actually our Fit and Fab channel, which you've been watching through different classes and courses and things like that that Sam has been demonstrating and doing in front of you guys. Now, that being said, so let's give you guys a little bit of background. Again, as I mentioned, I started when I was 9 years old, literally in Karate Do. So basic karate, traditional Japanese style, and I've done that for about maybe 18 years. And, at a certain point, I turned a new leaf and I saw that the karate was a great style and I learned a lot from it, from the basics. And then ultimately I went to Taekwondo, which was a little bit more a little different because it has a different emphasis and different focus. There's more kicks and things like that involved. And I've done that about 3 years until I discovered an art that is intriguing and a very complete and crazy and potentially lethal art. It is still potentially known as a dangerous art because of the weaponry and the tactics that are used. and some of those arts are actually utilized in today's modern warfare, in combat training, special ops, and so on and so forth. Now, the art itself, I mean, I will invite the guests that have more ranking and more experience and expertise and probably more eloquent to talk to you guys about those, and we will have potentially demonstrations, we'll have live feeds from different studios and different schools. Maybe we'll do some engaging, conversations with some of the masters and introduce you to some of these styles out there that are all kind of touched, to each other. And so again, karate, taekwondo, ninjutsu. So first of all, let me talk about martial arts in general. So the word martial arts introduced the military concepts, right? Or the arts of war, or arts of fighting in the military. And it's ancient, and obviously there are different styles. There's Chinese styles, and there's and within the Chinese formats, there's the traditional kung fu, Shaolin, wushu. There's so many variations. Jeet Kune Do, which is a derivative. Then we have all the traditional martial arts in Japan, which will be like Karate Do. Then there's Aikido, there's Judo, there is different types of karate, of course. And there is also Korean, like Taekwondo, Hapkido. And then there is, the different other styles that got introduced into the concepts, in the world that we know. So typically those are concepts that you will go to a studio, a dojo, and you learn. There's ranking level. You start at white belt, ultimately wind up at a black belt, first degree, and then from there you become the journey really of knowing and understanding the actual arts and being an actual true martial artist that is, knowledgeable, to teach and educate others and train them and show them exactly how it works. So that's kind of like just a little brief. And many of you probably watching this, you're probably like, well, there's nothing new. We know all this. We've seen it all. Of course you have. Anyone. We're all excited about those movies out there. We all have, potentially, some of you may be watching, you may be already in the arts and doing one form or the other. Obviously the fitness kickboxing that we do here at the studio, at the Fit and Fab, is a form that is derivative. The concept comes from the same, base, except that it's got more evolved into like more of a fitness style. It's a little different. It's less intensity, it's low impact, and there's no combat stuff in it. There's definitely no weapon training in it. And so it's a little different in the way it works. However, the concept of the arts that I've been on, they taught me a lot of things. And, I want to share that with you guys in terms of just an introduction today. The first part is, as a kid, we hear this all the time. There's bullying. Now, when I was a kid, I was a little tiny dude. And, I was picked on a lot. And, when I was a kid, I was like, parents, Mom, Dad, I can't do this. Kids are like literally all over me, and I need to have some sort of an opportunity to stand. And some of you parents may relate to this because your kids probably are telling the same thing. I got these kids that are bullying me at school and so on and so forth. And it's funny, I was just watching the Cobra Kai series, recently, which brought me back to the days of the Karate Kid, the first movie, and all the concepts behind it. But so we've seen some of that in that particular movie about bullying and the mentality of martial artists, the right one versus the wrong one, and how that works. There's a potential risk when it comes to martial arts and the personalities that get involved with them. But in my case, so I was a kid, I'm telling my parents, I need something. So my dad, may he rest in peace, he actually, when he was younger, he also got engaged in the world of karate. And then his sensei was also a good friend of him, so he introduced me to his dojo, which was Karate Do Shotokan. And so I began my journey at the age of 9. I progressed rapidly in it and reached my black belt level, and that was in the karate world, and it was a great thing. So I loved everything about the training. I loved everything about the stamina. I loved everything about the motivation behind it. I loved everything about the levels that I've been through and the katas and so on and so forth that you've gained, and also the friendship and the camaraderie and the people around you. It's like a whole family. The world of martial arts is a big family, and we all almost tied to each other somewhere, one way or the other. But then, what was the main reason when I did that after bullying was really to gain confidence, and also be, in a way, self-disciplined. Because, the first thing when you're bullied, you're probably going to do is react, and you want to have tendencies where you want to fight all the time. And because, you're so oppressed, and we had just a couple of shows about psychology in my other channel, and, it was about how people go through some trauma when they're younger. And as they grow older, depending where they wind up and what they experience, some of that stuff actually fits in. So ultimately, I can tell you that my personal experience, which I'm pretty sure a lot of can relate to, in terms of how it impacted other folks today in their life as they grew up, as well as their children. It is a life-changing experience, because although I learned the arts and I became good at them in the beginning, especially in the karate, basic defense, nice kicks, punches, all that good stuff, I always were able to maintain, discipline and never lose my cool. As we say, that is dangerous, right? So you don't get angry. So the first thing I learned is like to be disciplined, to be controlling, understanding my situation, controlling the self. Don't be like, just like a firecracker, just going like all over the place. It doesn't work that way. So that's the first thing I learned. So I would recommend, from this platform to anyone, get engaged with martial arts, get your kids engaged. It's pretty good, and it will teach them a lot. Now, not only discipline, respect. Because it comes from the world of martial arts, the world of military concepts, there is ranking, there's authority, there's respect. You salute, in the dojo, you salute your peers, you salute your sensei. There's all that respect. There's a whole different culture to it. And that's a different spin on what we actually know in a regular, life. People just don't have any respect for anyone. When you enter a dojo, you have, and depending on what art, no shoes on, you salute just the actual facility. That's where that's the home. Then if you have a sensei, available, that's the person you salute. If you're doing any fighting or some sort of sparring concept, technique, whoever you're in front of, you have to salute as well. So that's important to actually understand. So that shows you that. So, you don't speak just because you stand in rank, you stand, there's a form to it. There's a lot of stuff that you learn in the art. And those practices, believe it or not, in my own personal life and career, I'm talking professional career, they've helped me a lot. And when I say they helped me a lot, in every aspect, in some of the concepts I learned over the years, and also the concepts I learned from my professors and senseis, is that I've applied them in real world, in a real application, not in a combat or fighting mode and stuff like that, in actual work and business. And so it helps a lot, to develop that particular stuff. Also, you'll develop awareness, and you can also train your mind, in martial arts. You'll be trained to potentially avoid conflict, because a good martial artist, a true martial artist will always tell you, there's no real win in a fight. I mean, in the world we live in, there's a few options, right? If you get into any fight, you can wind up getting hurt. That's always a possibility. Doesn't matter if you're good or not. I mean, there's always someone that can be better. Then you have the concept of you hurting someone, which legally, and in terms of the law enforcement, opportunities out there, you might get into trouble and wind up, not in a good place. And then ultimately, you can even lose your life, or maybe like have some sort of a permanent disability, that you don't know. So in fact, it's not really, the recommended, piece of the arts. That's not what people train, is to be able to be lethal. Although when you train, you're lethal, but there are people that may not be trained. There are people that actually may be bad, and they want to hurt you or your family, your friends. And sometimes you get in a position or a situation that you just cannot avoid. There's no way for you to actually prevent it. It happens, and you got to deal with it. And so you can be prepared through training, or you can be unprepared and just, maybe get lucky. So the martial arts train you on the first one, which means you'll always be prepared. You will always have tools that you can use to defend yourself or whoever you are with. And it also teaches you to understand what's going on, the dynamics behind you, around you, your surroundings. We hear that like in some of the, like in Star Wars, be mindful of your surroundings, right? So concepts like that actually are real. And so when you walk around the streets, whatever, you're aware of the dangers and things like that. So you can actually evaluate situations before they can happen. You can also foresee things. Anybody in advanced training in martial arts will tell you they can see situations developing before they develop, because that's how they see it. They have a certain eyesight to it that most of the people will not. And you cannot get that until you actually develop yourself in the arts and also train. And there are some real, concepts and martial artists that have been in it for years and years and years. So again, I studied, like I said, in karate first, which was my first base for, a foundation of the arts. And that taught me a lot throughout my youth. And I can tell you, throughout my whole life, I might have been engaged in one, a little quarrel that may have been engaged into some sort of a combat situation. And luckily it was good. I managed it well. Nobody got hurt and it was good, but that's it. And for the most part, it was more of a self-defense than anything else. And it was, a bunch of people that just kind of tried to jump. But, not recommend to fight, not recommend to do anything. Learn your discipline, learn the art, be ready to actually always, evaluate the situation and avoid fighting. If you have a conflict, you have to. But if you get engaged, anyone in the arts will tell you, if you get in a situation, you got to deal with it, you got to handle it, and might make sure that you do it. Now, there are different levels how you can handle it. Based on your expertise and advanced, training, you will be able to determine what level or degree of damage you can make if you're going to actually get into some sort of a interaction with some other folks. So some people can go extreme and maybe take it to the next level. I mean, unless you're at war, that is not something that, that is recommended or anyone will tell you. Now, military folks and police enforcement, law enforcement police, sometimes they engage in life-threatening situation and sometimes it turned out to be bad. But in a real life, as we go around the streets, that is not our aim. That is not what we should be focusing on. When we go and train martial arts, it should be for your discipline, for your physical aspect, for a lot of good stuff. That is more spiritually, physically, mentally. It's all good for you. So that's important. So that's just some of the basic advice. And I'm sure as we bring in guests over and we have interviews, just like I do the interviews on the world of the health industries and health-related stuff, this will be the platform for those types of discussions. Martial arts, self-defense, and we'll probably, over, the time, we will go over arts by art, style by style, different stuff. I also will introduce in some basic self-defense mode here. There could be women self-defense, could be children self-defense. Nothing advanced, just basic moves and basic things that can help you, avoid situations. At my level, there's other folks that will be here that will show some serious combat stuff that is more advanced for those that are willing to see stuff. It's all cool, it's all fascinating, and you will probably enjoy most of it, if not all of it. It will not be a movie, and maybe we'll do some skits for you guys just to have fun, but at the end of the day, it's really introductions and to concepts that potentially can save your life, or, just, get your better spirit, better, personality, better moral, position, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of like the concept that we're going to be introducing in the Fit and Fab channel. Going forward. So look forward to all these new things that will be in the programming. So when you see this video first, this is the first of many, and just look forward to it. So we will schedule those as needed as we get our guests, on the plateau here or on the station itself. We'll have like live interviews, could be remote, could be physical. Now with the COVID going on, maybe more difficult to get really in person with a lot of the studios, but as the time progresses, things get back to normal, we'll be able to actually engage in person and do a lot of field stuff, maybe go into some demonstrations, some competition, bring you live stuff, so that will be the future of where we are and where we're thinking about. So that's the concept. Now, I did Taekwondo. Taekwondo was a great opportunity in terms of stamina, in terms of your posture, in terms of your speed, especially your kicks. I mean, you learn very quick kicks and very different level of kick. And in karate, it's all based on the stance. I mean, it's pretty good, it's pretty fast, it's pretty good, strong. But there are different variations in how karate also focuses more in the hands. Stuff. Legs are good. Taekwondo is a lot more faster and a lot more enhanced in the legs concept and the kicks. And that was excellent. So now when I got introduced to ninjutsu or shinobi, the style, it was impressive. I actually felt like I didn't train before. And so some people were like, what does that mean? Because I knew how to combat stuff like, like spar. I knew how to punch, block, kick, all that good stuff. Maybe, even get speed. But what I did not have is other things. How to fall, how to roll, how to do locks, how to pressure point. I mean, karate we did some pressure point, but not at the extent. How to use weaponry, like, whether offensively or defensively, different things that you can stealth techniques, deception techniques. There's so many things in the art of the ninja that is mystical, different. Ninjas historically have always been portrayed as the, either bad guys, assassins, and so on and so forth, and dangerous, ultimately. Well, and they were. rightfully so. But I mean, there's a lot of history on the ninjutsu, and we'll talk about it in future segments. Again, in a nutshell, ninjas were used. Some of them were actually samurais that were pretty much ronin and like on their own and doing their stuff, and then ultimately or even cast out, and then they wound up just assassins for hire. There were also peasants that actually were in villages that were always being aggressed against, and they're always been having to defend themselves. So they learned these arts to be able to defend against those oppressors or attackers. So there's more to it. I'm not going to get into it today. So this is again a general introduction as to the concepts, and then ultimately they became more sophisticated in their art, and their art has been pretty much historic until today. It is still being applied in real situations. A lot of special forces, Krav Maga, and a style that is actually driven also from ninjutsu. There's jujitsu, traditional jujitsu. There's some stuff. There's aikido involved in ninjutsu. So there's all these things. And ninjas adapt to everything. Situations, time, weapons, you name it, they adapt to it. So the new ninjas today are not dressed like this, and I'll show you next time how they dress. The new ninjas may be not looking like, with a camouflage and a hair gear. They may not look like, they have a sword. They'll probably look like a regular person to you, and you're not even going to see them coming. So ninjutsu is a different art, and it involves a lot of stuff. Now also in ninjutsu you train a little bit of everything. So there's throws, there is real skill of like, getting into the body stuff. There's multi, attacks, training that you have to do with multiple people when you get really surrounded, how you deal with the different types of weapons that you have to learn to operate and use in real life and against other types of weapons. There's knife training, gun training, sword training, side training, shurikens, nunchaku, all you name it, we have it in ninjutsu, and there is not a weapon that you cannot potentially not use in ninjutsu. Also in the ninjutsu art, you would use also the stealth, so basically like, silent mode where you come in where nobody sees you, and those are real. There's training for that too. You would also learn at a certain level, to actually react blindfolded. That is actually true training. There's so much stuff that you will learn in the art. Now again, this is just, as I mentioned, karate and taekwondo and their strengths. In ninjutsu you do all that. Now there are plenty of other arts. I mean, there's Filipino arts, Indonesian arts. There is the actual BJJ, which is now more common, of a grappling type of training, martial arts school style. There's also MMA, which is now more pretty much promoted all over the place because it's more of a combat, fighting type of sport. So there's all these, and a lot of these, even MMA, a lot of the folks in MMA come from all over different backgrounds. Of course, some of them get better, by learning all the other styles to be able to complement what they originally had, because you cannot be just good at one thing. You have to be good at a lot of things to be able to make impact in the actual, cage. Especially you got nowhere to run. So either you make it or you break it. So you have to be able to do things on the ground, up, kicking, punching, throws, whatever you need to do to make it happen, you do it. So again, those are the concepts. So I just quickly for a demo, I just wanted to show you some of the type of weaponry that ninjutsu would use or ninjas would have used. Now this particular here, this is actually not a ninja weapon. This is, it could be used as such if it was available, but this is what a true, like an old samurai would have used, which is a regular katana, right? And this one is live, so that's a regular katana, you pull it off and then that's it, the rest is history. So there's arts for this in some of the Aikido style arts. There's also some of the things that actually teach you about the sword business. In the ninjutsu, they do have different level swords, and they are pretty much different in style. These are some of the just commercialized ones, and they are, available. There's shorter ones, there's taller ones, there's the tantos, which will be like a little, daggers that, people, the ninjas would use. They use blowguns, so, little darts, maybe a little bit of a, some sort of a poison or whatever, and the ninjas were known to use poison or hallucinogens where people actually, you get impacted with them and you just don't know what's going on, and it looks like, some sort of magic. So they use a lot of that stuff. They did basically use poison, and so in ninjutsu, there's these weapons will be actually dipped in some sort of a poison that only they would have the antidote for, and then ultimately when someone gets touched with those, even if they don't have a killing type of situation, you know, at that time, someone can eventually have a, you know, a lethal effect or fatal effect later on, you know, based on that poison, because if they can't get that. Now, they use things at home, you know, like, you know, the nunchucks, you know, that were used for, you know, rice stuff. You know, the shurikens or the stars. That's actually a good favorite weapon, and we see it in the movies. Now, there's ways to throw this thing, left, right, whatever, and there's different ways of them. There's different styles of them. There's also some things, you know, to climb, you know, trees, walls, whatever. So they have these things that crawl up. There's this side. There's this little bad boy, you know, for, you know, some serious, you know, damage you can make, whether from the tips here or actually the chain. So there's so many things, and this is just a little quick thing that I was able to produce for you guys, just to show you some of it. As we do, again, classes with different arts, we will get into some of the weaponry that they use, from Chinese arts to Japanese to any other art around the world. We'll also introduce the world of BJJ, Judo, Aikido, katas. Again, the concept is that we're going to go to that extent and basically make this particular segment of the Fit and Fab channel dedicated to martial arts, plus everything else, obviously health, you know, wellness, fitness, HIIT training, kickboxing, you know, even boxing, and so on and so forth will continue as normal. You know, and a lot of that programming is focused more on women's, you know, fitness. But you know, this segment here will actually relate a little bit more to all the genders and all the different walks and ages. So anyone interested in martial arts will be able to actually get an access to this and watch. I mean, we see demonstrations. We have some channels out there that do show some martial arts, you know, activities. You can literally go to YouTube and watch everything you want in martial arts, TikToks. But we're going to do something a little more and bringing you guys some of the concepts in front of you. I want to show you some real life stuff and really maybe give you some real insights for each and every one of those arts. That being said, again, so this is not the regular outfit you'll be seeing me with, but I just wanted to get you a little bit of an, you know, an introduction on the arts. But this is actually what an older ninja, you know, in history would have been, you know, dressed as. This is like the uniform, right? But they also could have been wearing just a regular, you know, day clothing. Because they used deception. They would have walked into your own household and you wouldn't even know that they were actually a lethal assassin until it's over. So again, there's a lot of mystical stuff about the ninjutsu and the ninjas and the history behind. You know, again, like I said, Hurricane H here. Hope that this particular segment is different, definitely different, I'm sure, from what you're used to, but I hope that this will be something that you look forward to, and we will be working on some of these projects to bring them to you live, and hopefully you get to enjoy them. And then, like I said, you know, stay tuned for classes, personal, you know, defense, you know, some weaponry, and so on and so forth, some basic elements of martial arts with me, my wife, or any other instructors, senseis, or shians, or professors that we will actually be able to, you know, bring into you guys. That being said, have a great day. We'll talk soon. Ciao, ciao.